Key candidate must judge pies based on appearance, color, texture, flavor, and firmness. The gig pays $500 along with travel and food expenses. Applicants can apply on the Bonus Pie website right now. There's a lot of pumpkin pie eating required, and I'm not a huge fan. Would you do it?
No, I'm not a big fan.
No, I mean, I'll have it to be nice.
Yeah.
No whipped cream on it.
Yeah, that's about it.
Would you? Well, I guess if you're gonna pay me, I'll do it. You do it.
Oh yeah. The 500 a pie, or just overall?
Well, now we're talking.
Yeah, a pie. That's a different story.
You're sweetening the deal. All right, Katie, what's up at 5:30?
All right, Andy, Erica, we know one of the biggest shopping days right after we eat all that pumpkin pie is coming up. It's just a few days away. We're talking about Black Friday. But coming up, I'll tell you about what Attorney General Dana Nessel is telling all of us about safer shopping this holiday season. That's ahead.
Tonight, the show that taught us the meaning of love, family, and coffee returns.
Everything in my life has something to do with coffee. I believe in a former life I was coffee.
Lorelai, Rory, and the unforgettable people of Stars Hollow return for a 4-night Gilmore event.
Are we excited about this? No, the repeating part is over.
Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life. Broadcast premiere tonight at 8/7 Central on the CW.
What do kids want? To run faster than anyone. To jump up and away. Once Upon a Child has what kids want at prices parents love. Once Upon a Child. Toyota Thon is on. Now's the time to get a great deal on Tacoma. Ford, Camry, and more. I'll take it. I'll get this wrapped up for you. I wish I had just unwrapped it.
Get $1,000 customer cash on the legendary new 2021 4Runner. $1,250 on the rugged new Tacoma. Or lease this Tacoma double cab for only $139 a month.
Toyota Thon's on. Come in today.
Toyota, let's go places.
At Blaine's Farm and Fleet, we always offer genuine values on the things you need. But this year, our Black Friday bargains are coming early with incredible free Black Friday deals available now throughout the store. Like these special kitchen tool and knife block sets half off. Get $50 off this Milwaukee 5-tool combo kit. And this Laren floor jack and creeper kit is half off. Plus, buy online and pick up your items in our convenient drive-thru. You don't even need to get out of your car.
Okay. I'm gonna watch some TV. Mount Pleasant. Not available in all places. Not available. Who cares? YouTube. Eat this and relax. My feet were so small. I wish I knew what that TV show was. Watched something weird earlier, guys, of this thing, and I just like kind of like Sonic, kind of it. Not exactly like Sonic, but something like Sonic had. Like an early version of Sonic had, but oh well. It was weird though. Now, I'll watch this. I haven't seen this in a while. And
Pringles Wavy with a big crunch and totally different flavors. They're not really Pringles. Just like that's not really Daddy. Yes, it is. Okay.
Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor.
now, guys, I got a call from the CDC earlier today. Earlier today, I got a call from the CDC around noon. I wasn't eating lunch. I was just relaxing.
Welcome to Abandoned, episode 32.
Ask some questions, and first I make sure I told this person, I hope this is not a scam because I've been hearing in the news that people have been scamming a lot of people lately. So what network's been saying this? I told her what network. She said I never heard about this. I said yes. And then so I asked questions, and she didn't ask me. She asked me a couple questions. I answered them, but she didn't ask me certain questions that I knew that then I knew it was not a scam. She proved that it wasn't a scam because of the code, because of some of the questions she had.
I do want to point out that there are some striking similarities between Ames and Bradley. Anyways, let's go back to 1958, when three businessmen envisioned a store that would carry a wide selection of products at a discount price. It would serve a relatively untapped market for the time, and in the same year, the men opened their first store in New London, Connecticut. It was named after the Bradley International Airport in Hartford, Connecticut, where the three businessmen met to discuss their idea for the store. The discount store was proving to have a place in the market, and as a result, Bradley's was seeing growing revenue. With momentum carrying through in 1960,
If I had the money, I'd buy Kmart.
the company was acquired by
Well,
Stop and Shop, Massachusetts-based grocery
Stop and Shop's still around today.
founded back in 1914. Bradley's became a subsidiary of the company, which meant the chain could now begin receiving the funding it needed to expand its brand with more locations. Discount stores were becoming extremely popular towards the late 60s, and by 1968, Bradley's now had 52 stores and earned an annual revenue of $139 million. So far, the acquisition of Bradley's was proven to be a smart one for its now parent company, Stop and Shop. As the 70s came around, Bradley's continued to expand along with the booming retail markets. More stores continued to open in the
This is
northern
convenient.
United States, a region now being dominated by discount store giants. With the company's growth, they set a strong
Stop and Shop's right next to Bradley's.
stores and the
Or-
products that they sold. Bradley's was marketing themselves as a high-quality brand which sold merchandise at low cost. With these efforts in effect, changes were made in their stores to mold themselves around what was popular for consumers. Stores had received renovations and upgrades, which meant serious money and care was being put into their stores. This proved to be extremely effective for the chain, as sales and revenue grew exponentially. By the end of 1979, Bradley's sales had grown to $634 million. In the early 80s, the chain saw greater competition in the country, with rising discount stores like Kmart, Ames, and Walmart, all of which were fighting for market share. Bradley's proved to be a strong brand, and despite the growing competition, by 1982 the chain had brought in over $871 million in sales. With Bradley's steady and increasing sales growth, the company had planned for even more expansion. And like most retailers that had their sights on physical growth, instead of building new locations, they would just buy out other companies and rebrand their stores. And that's exactly what Bradley's did. In 1982, the chain announced they had acquired 13 Memco locations in the Washington, D.C. area.
At least they're being smart.
Yeah, I'm stuck. Sure. What else we have to do that? Well, 25th. So 25th, I think around. I'll use the aluminum.
Okay. Some beer. Here goes some beer. Oh yeah. And a little bit, guys. Where
Bradley's was still set on conveying themselves as a high-quality discount retailer and had intentions open another 20 new stores in the next year. By 1984, Bradley's was seeing substantial positive growth, and by year's end, the chain made $35.2 million in operating profit and $1.4 billion in sales. Of course, with this growth came more expansion. In March of 1985, Bradley's announced they had purchased 18 of the 41 stores from the Jefferson Ford Company, a division of the Montgomery Ford Company. The reason why Bradley's only acquired 18 was because the additional 23 stores were located in Florida, and the company wanted to remain in the Northeast United States.
Which is smart.
Even though Bradley's expansions were aggressive, the chain still lost market share by the end of the year. This worried the company's parent, Stop and Shop, which had several of its chains lose money that year. And the sign of Bradley's, one of the company's more profitable chains to lose money, was a little alarming. So action was taken, and in 1986, Stop and Shop had removed Bradley's president, which actually resulted in sales rising once again. The chain now had an annual reported sales of almost $2 billion. By the next year, Bradley's was back to expanding further, with 11 new stores planned to be opened and 13 planned to be remodeled. Bradley's counted as a significant revenue stream for Stop and Shop, so it's no wonder why the company was pushing for expansion. The chain was building a huge presence in the Philadelphia and New Jersey areas after another purchase of the Two Guys Company and a 530,000 square foot distribution center. Their parent company, Stop and Shop, was being targeted by the Dark Group Corporation by a hostile takeover bid. This basically meant that the Dark Corporation was buying a large amount of shares and attempting to replace the board of directors of Stop and Shop, who would be in favor of the Dark acquisition. The company needed to take evasive actions to avoid becoming a subsidiary of itself to the Dark Corporation. So in 1988, Stop and Shop succeeded with a leveraged buyout and became a privately held company. This resulted in Stop and Shop acquiring a huge amount of debt, nearing over $1 billion. You know, I think Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom says it best.
I am offering you $1 billion per share more than today. So if this is enough money, you take it. $4 billion for a $62 billion company is a steal.
It's not. I think he's trying to tell you don't have $4 billion. How
How much do I have?
I don't know, but it's somewhere in the ballpark of nothing close to $4 billion.
I never seen the newsroom.
This severely affected Bradley's future plans.
Ooh,
The chain had
I'm gonna
sold
a little
these
bit, but-
to 37 other
Yeah,
stores
yeah,
in
no,
North
that- yeah.
Carolina and Virginia. Even though Bradley's was scaling back drastically, this did mean that the brand could focus more on the markets it was strong in. By 1989, Bradley's brought in new management and overhauled much of their operations. Many new marketing campaigns were introduced, such as Mrs. B, a spokesperson which focus groups said would reach out to customers. The chain also began updating and modernizing their stores with new equipment to help streamline operations. Bradley spent around $34 million to implement these new in-store changes. Following this, though, sales were slightly down from the previous year, however still holding steady and even growing in some cases at $1.8 billion. Stop and Shop was struggling with debts, and by 1991, they decided to undo their leveraged buyout and went public again in an effort to pay off their debts. In the decision to go public, Bradley's was separated from the company in 1982. This culminated in Bradley's trading stock for the first time, which resulted in 11 million shares sold, and this stock momentum carried through the strong Christmas season. However, this momentum did not last long, as 1993 proved to be a difficult year for Bradley's from tough competition. This is where things started moving downhill for the company. To counteract the falling sales, Bradley's began cutting costs. Changes were made in their stores, and management staff was reduced, eliminating 280 jobs. Despite all of this, though, the chain decided to open 10 more stores. With sales dropping and the company entering a terrible financial state and losing money, suppliers were starting to take notice. By 1995, Bradley's was now operating 136 stores in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Virginia. In June, the company had filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. In a statement, the company said it had been able to pay its debts on time, but was forced to file because many of its suppliers had stopped shipping goods, fearing they would not be paid by the company. The only way to get their merchandise back in their stores was to file for protection. Bradley's had lost over $30 million in 1995. Investors did not react well to the filing, as their stock had dropped to $1.50 a share, an 80% decrease in value. By 1996, the company made the decision to close some of its underperforming stores. While the company was losing a massive amount of money during this time, with its bloated infrastructure and stiff competition, by 1998, things were kind of improving. By the following year, the company was able to exit its Chapter 11 reorganization with about $160 million in value and $550 million in liabilities. Bradley's demise was in sight, yet the company was determined to keep the brand afloat. Bradley saw a huge boom as a competitor discount Caldor closed.
In a little bit, guys, I'm gonna turn this off.
After 150,000 miles.
Do something else.
There's still a lot of life in it too, because I add Seafoam to keep it running strong and on repairs.
Not for diesel only.
Closed all of its stores following its liquidation. Sales for Bradley shot up massively. However, by 2000, the former Caldor stores had been rebranded into new locations for Kohl's, Walmart, Ames, and others. As soon as these stores opened, Bradley's was sent into its debt spiral. The company had just collected too much debt, and at this point, there was nothing that could be done to save the company. Hundreds of millions of dollars would need to be paid off before it would ever become profitable. By December of 2000, Bradley's had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The company had come to deal with a Boston-based liquidation, and soon after, in January of 2001, Bradley's stores began being liquidated and closed when all of their assets had been sold. Bradley's had liquidated and closed all of their 105 remaining
That scared me.
stores by 10%. Over 10,000 employees lost their jobs. Bradley's quickly fell from what seemed like a promising continuation
That's what you do.
and effectively acted as a false wall over their financial problems. By 2002, all of their stores had either been purchased by other retailers or left unused and abandoned. It's been a while since 2002, so coming across an abandoned Bradley store is relatively rare. From what I've read, there are one or two left in the United States. This Bradley's location in Hamilton, New Jersey, was one of the remaining abandoned stores. With the power remaining on, the exterior was sealed off, with the interior slowly decaying over a span of 14 years. Water began trickling through the ceiling, and immense amounts of mold began covering the walls of the building. Signs and branding were left on the walls, and apartments remained with their changing rooms in the center. Moving towards the back of the building, employee areas are in extremely rough shape, with paint covering the walls and light fixtures falling from the ceiling. The entire building has missing ceiling tiles from them falling out of place due to the weight of collecting water. As a result, the floors are covered with still brown water collecting from the rusting steel above. Much like the Ames in Baltimore, at this point, the space could probably never be used again. In 2015, this former abandoned Bradley's location was torn down and replaced by a Walmart. Only a few former Bradley's locations exist abandoned. The majority have been either torn down or rebranded for what was probably a competitor for the chain. In the end, the brand had too much competition that it just couldn't compete with. It was just too small to keep itself going when it was up against stores like Ames and Walmart.
Bradley's just like Meyer.
It had other problems, but in the end, the brand was losing market share and money, and larger companies just killed it. Even if they did last, though, they were still a smaller company compared to the major discount retailers now. And even like Kmart and Sears are falling at a critical rate. Ames, the third largest discount retailer and one of Bradley's major competitors, had declared Chapter 7 and closed all of its stores just a year after Bradley's. So really, the discount stores of the past just aren't performing anywhere near the way they were.
Thing is, though,
Really, just take a look
Bradley's.
at JCPenney or Kmart, two brands that I will probably cover.
You already did.
Bradley's excelled in the late 70s and early 80s.
Kmart. I mean, Bradley's is just like Myers, okay? It's a small company that
It is a testament on
sticks
how
with
quickly
a certain area.
its stores now left abandoned or overtaken by the very competitors that put them out of business.
I'll stick with Myers.
The quick and inevitable death of the 43-year-old department store chain. I would like to thank this episode's sponsor, Audible.
So, hey, guys, I'm going to get off, guys. I'm going to do some GTA Online, so I'm going to get off.
Of the modern-day department store decline. I found a great book that explains just that.